Hey friends, my name is Hansen-Quao. I'm an award-winning social entrepreneur from Ghana. I love God. I love my family. I'm a wife. I'm a mother. I'm a business owner. And I'm honored to be someone who advises and coaches such brilliant and purpose-driven leaders from around the world, either through the Leading Ladies Network or through HQ Consulting, my business that supports organizations and individuals that are really focused on becoming their best self. In today's video, I want to talk to you about three things that are stopping you from becoming great. You see, I don't know if you can see over my shoulder over there, there's a red box in the corner of my home office where I'm coming to you live from. And this box I pulled out today because I felt I needed to go through some of my old journals. You see, I'm in strategy mode. I'm about to hit the road and do some work for a few clients. And there's this strategy document that's been brewing in me over the years that I've been journaling about. And I went into the box and I recall thinking to myself, oh my, I've come a long way. There are three key things that I've been able to overcome that I think might be a blessing to you as you're walking your unfolding journey, whether you are in business, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you are an employee or an employer. I think all of us have traits of these three things that we need to fix if we will become all that we're meant to be. All right. So the first thing stopping most of us from becoming great is unbelief. I saw this in one of my old journals from about 7 years ago. I was filled with so much panic, so much unsureness around my vision for my life, especially because at that point, my husband Charles and I had just become parents to Derek, our special needs son. So I'm a mother of three. Our middle child, Derek, is now 8 years old. So at the time I read this passage in the journal, he was barely 1 year old, and I was feeling all of the feelings. How can all of the things I've planned for my life, my destiny, my business, and all of that, how can it be given that I've got this son? And a lot of us have clarity about what we want to do in the future only until something hits us, only until something that we didn't expect shows up. The truth is, our path to success is never straight. There will always be twists and turns and unexpected things that evolve, but we have to be resilient enough to meet it. And I am convinced now that oftentimes these things come to test our belief. So, for the first year of Derek's life, for example, he was in the hospital and I was traveling back and forth. My family was in Ghana, he was in the US. I was stressed out of my mind. I was feeling that my world had ended. I felt like there was no way I could still keep a career, keep a marriage, keep a home, keep all of these things juggling with this particular situation. So that was bringing me into unbelief, unbelief in myself. So there's unbelief in different levels. And I think that this is how it showed up in my life. And it might be instructive for me to break this down for each of you. So the first level of unbelief showed up in my belief in self. I started doubting whether or not God was with me, being a staunch believer in Christ that I am. I started to doubt my faith that if God loved me, why was I given this child with special needs? I started to doubt whether or not what had happened with him was a result of my sin or imperfection. So unbelief started first with me. I started to doubt me. Am I not who I said I was? Can all of the things that I'm planning and working towards still come to pass? Like I've always had this vision for undergirding the leaders that will transform Africa. In fact, anyone who knows me from college knows that I would talk about Africa and leadership for years. And that was a standstill point for me. All of the things that come against us in life, I think, are first and foremost there to test our amount of belief. How much belief do you have in the vision that God shows you for your future that you're willing to endure the tedious and keep keeping on? So for me, it meant that I needed help. I needed to have the humility to accept that I needed some help to process what I was going through. I enlisted counseling support. I was seeing counselors to help me deal with the grief. Because what they don't tell you is that oftentimes when you're blessed with a child that has so many special needs, although they are alive, there is a level of grief that you're experiencing. And I needed to help carrying that grief. So for you, what's testing your unbelief? Maybe you started a business that failed. I remember when we first ran the Standout Women's Leadership Program. This is a Pan-African leadership initiative that was born in 2014. Our first edition, I was probably in debt to up to like maybe 10 or 15,000 pounds because it was not a success. It was not financially fruitful. And so it affected my belief in that vision. And I really had to go back to the drawing board and say, wait a minute, I still believe that there is space for this type of initiative for women on the continent. And I'm going to do whatever it takes to make sure that we continue to support it. And I'm glad that I stuck to it because who knew that 2 years after that, this standout curriculum would be expanding across Africa, helping companies and organizations all over the continent to support their high potential women. That first flop, that first loss, that first failure was really there to test my belief. So the big mistake that stops many of us from being great is we start to lose belief. Belief in self, belief in the vision, and then belief in God. I trust that my life is in the hands of God, and it's made a world of difference because I'm able to stand outside of myself and remind myself when I'm going through these moments of self-doubt whose I am, that I'm a child of God. There's no surprises with him. And he knew that I would have this special needs child. He knew the man that I would marry. He knew the situations in the marketplace before I got here. So all I need to do is step back first and foremost and reaffirm that. Well, I find that when I come back into belief in God, in self, and of my future, then every other thing seems to come back into order. So if you want to step into greatness this year and beyond, you have to win the battle against unbelief. The second thing that I want to share, and as I was reading through these journals back here, it was really poignant to me. The second level of battle that we will need to fight is against avoidance. I saw in some of my journals from past years that I was so good at avoiding difficult conversations, avoiding things that made me feel unsure and uncertain. I never wanted to be seen as a novice or someone who didn't know. And so it showed up in my life in different ways all over my career. So I would avoid difficult conversations. In my early stages of career, I was a manager in this destination management company, and I had a team of people working for me, and I wanted to be seen as the cool boss. I didn't want my team members to feel like I was oppressive as a leader. And so oftentimes I was not strict and didn't put my foot down when things weren't going the way they should. I didn't demand accountability. And if my team didn't do things the way they should, I would cover for them, or I would end up taking on the work that they were meant to do simply because I would much rather avoid a difficult conversation than to face it and be, seen as mean or stubborn or strict or wicked, right? And I see this pattern in the lives of so many women that I have the opportunity to coach, that oftentimes we're such people pleasers that we are avoiding the tough decisions we know we need to take. I don't know if I have any witnesses in the house today, but honestly, if we are going to be great this year or beyond, we have to get good at facing the difficult conversations. Oftentimes, the next level that we're expecting is on the other side of a difficult conversation with a spouse, a difficult conversation with a colleague or coworker, a difficult conversation with a boss or employer, a difficult conversation that you've been putting off that you don't want to have because you don't want to rock the boat. You know what they say? Well-behaved women rarely make history. And a lot of us have been socialized to be liked and to be applauded and to be called nice, that it really robs us of the opportunity to become great. So the second thing that we really have to deal with if we're going to be all we're meant to be and to come into the realm of greatness, we have to stop avoiding difficult people, difficult conversations, difficult situations. We have to stop avoiding. I don't know about you, but my marriage has gotten better when I started embracing the conflict, embracing the tension, and saying, look, let us sit in this discomfort together. Let's have a conversation about what you need and what I need. I've learned how to advocate for myself. Even in my business, with employees, with business partners and consultants and other people that I would let have the better of me because I didn't want to rock the boat. And I'm seeing growth in my business, more peace in my home, more success all around me because I stopped avoiding things. A lot of us avoid the things that we're afraid of, but quite honestly, it's sometimes the things that we fear the most that we need to do the most. And I don't know about you, but 2 years ago, for example, I felt that it was time to take the Standout Women's Leadership Program outside of West Africa and start making this more of a Pan-African initiative. And I was scared, I tell you. I'd become comfortable in the fact that in Ghana and in West Africa, we had such momentum. We were serving different companies across this region. And I just started to feel like there's more. And I wanted to avoid this with all my heart. And so I would say, oh no, maybe this is, just too big. Not now. I was giving excuse after excuse after excuse. And then I went to church. I went to a church meeting. For those of you who know, my faith plays such a big role in everything that I do, even in the direction that I take professionally. And I remember one day at church, this pastor friend said that, Yawa, I think that God is asking me to provoke you on something. And I said, oh, what is it? And he says, look, he says that he's giving you the keys to East Africa, but you're refusing to take it and unlock these doors. And I said, you are so right, because I've had dreams, I've had impressions, and I feel like it's time, but quite frankly, I'm scared. So I've been avoiding it. So I don't know about you. I'm not pointing at you because I know what this is like as well. When you're so comfortable doing things one way and you feel like there's a new thing that you're supposed to try, I thought to myself, I don't know people out there. Nobody knows me there. I'm a West African girl. I'm multicultural. Will they understand me? I was just giving myself every excuse for why I couldn't go to the next level. And for many of us, this idea of avoiding what feels difficult, what feels unknown, is the reason why we are not entering greatness. So I want to challenge you today. Is there something that you know you are called to, something that you know you are meant to put your hands to, but you're afraid of what people will say if it doesn't work out? Maybe you're letting the voice of the past failure talk you out of it. I know that's happened in my life so many times. I just really want to encourage you today that it's time to deal with that spirit of avoidance and say, look, if I perish, I perish. For those of you who know the scriptural story of Esther, this is a very popular statement that she makes, that, look, maybe I'm queen because I'm here to deliver these people at this time, and I'm just going to go ahead and do this thing. And if I perish, I perish. So for the past 2.5 years, we've been working in East Africa because I've taken that attitude that, look, actually, what's the worst that can happen? I know that we do great work here in West Africa, and I'm going to just go with what we have and trust that we will find the right partners, we'll find the right people, and the people who know that this is theirs will say yes. And year after year of taking the Standout Women's Leadership Program into Kenya to serve the East Africa region, we've been amazed by just how much demand there has been. So if you are a woman in East Africa who's passionate about her future, I want to invite you to the Standout Women's Leadership Program in East Africa. We're coming back in April 2026 as well as September 2026. So you can click a link in the show notes and you can access that as well. The final point that I want to make today about the thing that keeps us from becoming great is that often we don't become great because of this thing called humility. So I am from Ghana, one of the brightest and best countries in West Africa. I grew up in the US, where my family lived for many years as immigrants who were fleeing, the political uneasiness in Ghana in the early 80s. So formative years of my life were spent in the US. And then from the time I was a teenager till now, Ghana has been home. So I come at this point with a dual lens and view. The first lens is the lens of an immigrant. For those of you who've been an immigrant in any other country, there is this thing that we have to fight, this feeling of inferiority that we often feel because we know and are often reminded over and over that we are not from where we currently live. So, for example, in my life, I was an immigrant girl going to elementary school in California. My parents and I at the time didn't speak American English. A lot of us, in fact, I learned English in the US. We went to the US, speaking my mother tongue. And so I grew up in a society where I was constantly reminded that I did not fit. They were reminded anytime they called my name, it wasn't a typical American name. And it bruised me deeply sometimes that my mother, she likes to tease me with this. She said that at at my seventh birthday or so, I asked if they would change my name to Amanda Johnson because I really did not like that my name sounded so different from everyone else's. That's how badly I felt inferior. I wanted so badly to fit in, and it was just a pain growing up in that environment. So it took a lot for me to come into my own, and I was helped by my parents who believed in me and affirmed me. And then as I grew up, also by just taking my identity from who I believe God says I am. So couple that with my cultural upbringing, where in Ghana we believe in modesty and conservatism. I was applauded for being quiet and calm, and anyone who kind of is outspoken and loud, especially as a woman, is often asked to be quiet and know your place. And so as I'm growing up and I'm imbibing this vision for leadership for myself and for others, I am conflicted because I have my growing up years where I struggled with a sense of self-identity and purpose. And then I have my cultural heritage where there seems to be a dissonance between who I'm supposed to be culturally and what I feel God is grooming me into as a public leader. And many of the women that I currently coach or am mentoring through my Elevate program or through the Standout program are facing that same tension. And what we sometimes call humility is shrinking. It's not humble to hide your light under a bushel, as the Bible describes it. It's not humility to shrink in the face of opportunity just because you're afraid of what it will make other people feel like. In fact, a few years ago, one of my executive coaches said something to me. She said, Yawa, it seems to me that you are wearing the opinions of others around your neck like a noose and you're hanging yourself. And it was so true. I felt like I needed to be humble, and humility to me meant quiet, seen but not heard, and I was filled with ability, capacity, and knowledge that needed to be shared, but I wouldn't share it because I felt like humility meant quiet. Humility meant, you know, taking a back seat. And there's a scripture that really was enlightening to me that said, a city that is built on a hill cannot be hidden. And may I suggest to you that some of us are actually knowing that we are at this level, but settling for this level. And that's the root of our misery. It's been enlightening to me to just say, look, this is who I am. This is what I offer, and this is what I bring to the table. This is the value that God's created me to make in the world, and not everybody will like that, but it's okay. Not everyone will accept it, but it's okay. And you make a big mistake if you judge what you are capable of doing and becoming by what you see around you. I know I'm called to those that are vision bearers for countries and companies and nations and communities. And many of us are women. We are wearing the gender that often people are looking down on. A lot of people don't think women should be in leadership in religious communities. Women shouldn't be in leadership in government and national development. But the time is now that so many of us are educated, are exposed, and can bring the receipts about what we're capable of doing. But humility holds us back. This false sense of humility that makes a lot of us settle for less than we're capable of becoming. And this means that we have to learn new skill sets. It means we need to be more strategic. It may mean we need to stop being in certain rooms and start pursuing other ways of exposing ourselves and what we're capable of. And that's why I'm honored to do the work that I do with leaders at so many different levels. And through the Leading Ladies Network and our Elevate coaching and mentoring circle, through the Standout Women's Leadership Program, we're doing just that. So I want to share these three things. Again, number one, unbelief. You have to believe in self, believe in the vision, and believe in God. Number two, you have to stop avoiding difficult conversations, difficult situations, endure the tedious, sit with discomfort, stop being an avoider. And lastly, stop wearing this cloak of false humility. It doesn't serve you, and it doesn't serve the people you are called to serve. Imagine the hundreds and thousands of women that have been waiting on the other side of my obedience to say, yes, I will do the work to establish this network. Yes, I will do the work to curate these learning and development experiences. Yes, I will bring this work to your country and your nation. Yes, my saying yes has unlocked a side of me that I greatly admire and respect. And I pray that one day when you're opening a box of old journals or you're flipping back the pages of your past, you see that you've grown because you've stopped unbelieving, you've stopped avoiding, and you've stopped wearing the cloak of false humility. I hope that these three tips will really help you become all that you've been meant to be. And I hope that you'll keep sticking with me as we continue to unlock a new generation of people who come into the fullness of who they are called to be. Until next time, stay well, my friend. Mwah.